Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday, and yes, I am wearing the Boss Fight Kickstarter backers shirt. Some of you have already received this. You've sent me pictures. Some of you guys are still waiting. It is a slog. Canada Post has not been fun since COVID. For Lady Bits, I just went in, picked up a whole bunch of the forms in advance for US and international shipping, filled them all out, and it was just through. Now they've gone to this shitty computerized system that requires every single thing to be entered manually by me. It's taking time. The art prints and everything like that, all that will be coming to you. That is my priority for the next couple weeks, but that's not what I'm talking about this video today. I want to elaborate on what you may have caught at the very end of the boss fight finale, that a boss fight video game is coming. Boss Fight Song of Sparkle Muffin. You may have seen this coming soon. A chance for your character to be in the game. I am going to outline what the hell that means today. There's going to be a Twitch live stream tonight starting at 7 o'clock. If you have any questions about the Boss Fight video series or the game, or what I'm about to explain about an experiment we're doing with the game. As always, Patreons get the most direct say. This is always, Patreons found out about this game a week ago. They got early notice. So if you want the insider track, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. So, my co-developers and I have worked on other crowd-funded games that had some sort of fan, fan inclusion, whether it be a portrait or like, your name on a tombstone or something like that. The issue is always diminishing returns on those sorts of incentives. They tend to be quite expensive. Hundreds of dollars, that gets eaten up with the additional work required to put that content in the game at a fairly late stage, because you don't normally do a crowdfund for a game until you've, got fairly big chunks of the game made. Just because, games take a long time and people have limited patience, and it just ends up being a quagmire. So instead of bundling all that stuff into one crowdfund, where the people who just want the game, they just want to pre-order the game, they just want to support it, take my money, I'll play it, that will come later. Any of those other sort of traditional crowdfunding incentives, that will come later. For people who want to be in the game, their characters to be in the game, we are going to run a dedicated crowdfund just for that incentive early. And then do the one for the actual, basically pre-order later. And the reason we're doing this is we don't want to wait until the game is majorly built and then go and have to backfill a bunch of stuff. We realize that, villagers in, the shimmering cities sort of thing, you're just wandering around making the world populated. Well, most of those are just bullshitted anyways, so we might as well open up the floor early. That actually saves us some work. And so what that means is that we can actually offer an affordable price for people to lock in with that stuff, so that it's not just the people with a ton of money who really like Boss Fight who can participate. Entry for this is $25. Now, there are a limited number of spots for this. Obviously, we don't want to create more NPCs than we could possibly generate for the game. But For that, it's just a little town person. You get to see the name, and there will be certain sprite customizations that you can pick. Obviously race, body type, male, female, or non-determinate. A limited number of furry races as well. Now, some furry races will limit where your character can appear in the game, because some towns are furry towns and some are not. But that, all that stuff can go in. It will be a form. There will be a series of options that you can pick from, and then you put in your character name and a little catchphrase, and off you go, right? That's basically the $25 tier, because, as I said, we have to create those populations anyway. There will also be a limited number of module writing opportunities available for the same price as the boss fight writing credit had, $75. The reason I picked $75 on this is that it's super important that people don't flake. We had a really good retention record on boss fight. Most people took that extremely seriously. Only 2 or 3 people ended up flaking on that. It was really good. There's only going to be 10 of those spots for the game, just because module writing for video games is much harder than backstory writing, and there will be more handholding required so that people can get up to speed. But it's an opportunity to write a module for a game. In other contracts I've done, I have taught people how to write this stuff. Like I said, this is all an experiment, but it gives people meaningful access and job experience who are really passionate about this stuff for a relatively small amount of money. Now, for more, we haven't totally set prices on this stuff. We're still sort of humming and hawing on this, but there will be a tier where you get to be a quest giver. That will be 3 figures. That'll be over $100 significantly, because that requires a portrait. That requires, it has to be similar quality to what we've already got. And I'm very excited at the art style we developed for this game. I think it's a fresh look. I really like it. It's evocative of some other games, but it says its own thing, especially Princess Sparkle Pony's sparkle psychoness. And obviously, a portrait would have to be done that matches this art style. That means the artist has got to be compensated for their time, right? And then the quest and all that stuff. In this case, the quest will be set by us. It might, we might do some consultation. You'll have an option again as to what type of character it is. I'll explain to you sort of, this is the limitations. This is where this character would go in the game. So on and so forth. Make sure everything's okay. And then off to the races. You get to be a quest giver. Again, that's going to be a very limited tier. And then I think we agreed on 8 sub-bosses based on a character of your choice. Because there are some dungeons that we just... Right now, it's sub-boss goes here, right? We haven't designed it yet. We know we want a sub-boss there. We just don't know what it is yet. So we're like, open it up. Ask people this stuff. Collect this data before we start really nuts and boltsing this thing. This makes more sense than doing it at the same time as people who just want the game and making people who just want the game wait years so that we can implement this stuff for people who want a more meaningful experience. I hope I am making sense with this. Like I said, it's an experiment. The thing about Boss Fight, the high degree of difficulty with Boss Fight was, I don't know if you guys remember, the majority of the character backstories were written by backers. not me. I gave them basics of don't violate these rules. Otherwise, I will take what you give me. I'm an old improv comedian. Yes, and. So this is a similar thing. This is a similar thing in the same spirit of collaborative for gamers, by gamers design. Some people think this is crazy. I think it's very exciting. I think that one of the things that has always amazed me about gaming is how giving people are. The amount of work the Boss Fighter writers put into stuff they paid for the privilege of doing was humbling. I want to give back a certain amount of that. I understand how identity validating being in something like this can be. Some of you may know that, there's a DC Comics character based on my likeness. I was a model in Battle Stations Pacific. It's just kind of a cool thing, right? To be in these things. And so I want to kind of share that I matter feeling with people without it costing a lot of money. This is why we're doing it this way. Boss Fight is not just silliness. It's not just information. It's not just, in some places, totally slapstick madcap farce, and in other places, really biting satire. But it's also community driven. How Boss Fight was made is central to its DNA, and we want to continue that with the game. We want to give people who just love games meaningful access early. People may remember that with Boss Fight, 4 different plot twists were voted on. I can talk about that more on Tuesday night, because the one series of answers for those polls that I thought would never happen was the one you guys picked. So I had to scramble a bit on that one, because I hadn't, that was the one I hadn't plotted, because I'm like, there's no way. And that was the one. Won't make that mistake again. But then the sort of tropes that the bosses were based on for each episode. Yes. How kind was a vote. All of them were, given this type of character, a fairy godmother, a Mortal Kombat parody, that kind of stuff. It all went that way. The backstories, everything like that. We want that cooperative feel, because I think a big part of the delightful weirdness of the finished product that was Boss Fight came from that yes and structure. And this is how we can think about doing that in a game, getting that same sort of vibe without creating a massive amount of scope creep. I admit the Boss Fight video series, the last episode, ended up being much more ambitious than it was originally written. The first draft of the script did not have that Plan C ending. I rewrote that because I'm like, no, we're going to pull off all the stops. People have been really super patient thus far. It's COVID. The world's weird. Let's just go for it. Take extra time and create something really fucked up and fun. And again, I think fucked up and fun are the marching orders for the game. A game about friendship, fantasy, and fun is the log line for Song of Sparkle Muffin, but fucked upness is definitely the 4th F. Just because these are the type of games I fell in love with. These are the type of games that don't get made anymore because everybody is either too scared or taking themselves too seriously. I want to go back to making the sort of games that inspired me to be a gamer and inspired me to believe in video games as a hobby and a storytelling medium and an artistic form, but also that made me want to make games. You know, I didn't start learning how to do narrative design because I wanted to make looter shooters. You know, I didn't want to make, you know, gritty military games. I want to make goofy shit that is fun and is fairly easy for people to access. There is a learning curve, but the basics are not difficult. You know, it's not going to be Dark Souls in terms of difficulty. More it's going to be what kind of experience do you want to have. There's going to be a lot of optional scenarios. I got super inspired playing Yakuza 0. I'm so glad people recommended that game to me. But that's where it's at. This is how we're going to do it. You may be totally confused right now. It is a little bit confusing. Again, live stream, Twitch, just chatting, tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Get all your questions answered. If we need to do another session Thursday, I'm willing to do that too. Now's the time to sort of ask your questions while I do this order fulfillment. And obviously there's certain things I can't talk about with the game yet because we're not ready to release character reveals and things like that. But broad strokes, I will be able to answer. It's my game, so if I violate an NDA, I'm violating my own NDA. So we'll see you tonight. And help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.